What if the greatest collapses in history weren't accidents? What if they were predictable? Imagine a secret code, an algorithm that has quietly run beneath every empire. Rise and fall, from the marble streets of Rome to the foggy banks of the Thames and into the shadowy halls of the Kremlin. This isn't about chaos or chance, it's about a pattern, repeating itself with chilling precision. Picture Rome at its absolute height, senators in togas debating in grand halls, legions marching under crimson banners, and gold pouring in from every corner of the known world. Now, fast forward to London's financial district, the heart of an empire where the sun literally never set. And then to Moscow, where the Soviet dream once seemed unbreakable. Each of these powers believed they were different. Each believed they had found the secret to eternal power. But beneath all that glory, the same code was running. Expansion, overreach, debt, denial, and finally, collapse. Our story begins in the heart of ancient Rome, a city of marble, ambition, and restless energy. Picture the crowded Roman forum, merchants haggling, senators locked in heated debate, the air thick with the scent of olive oil and raw ambition. Rome's legions march ever outward, conquering new lands, bringing back gold, slaves, and endless glory. For centuries, this algorithm of expansion seems unstoppable. But every conquest comes with a cost. The empire grows bloated, its borders stretched thin, vulnerable. To keep the legions loyal and the people happy, emperors promise ever more. Higher pay for soldiers, grander games in the Colosseum, free grain for the masses. The treasury strains under the weight of these promises. To fill the gap, Rome turns to a dangerous, insidious trick: currency debasement. Silver coins are clipped, mixed with cheaper metals, and their value is quietly eroded. It's the ancient equivalent of printing money. By the 3rd century, the cracks are showing everywhere. Inflation spirals out of control. Soldiers demand more and more devalued coins just to get by. Merchants raise their prices to compensate, and the people lose all faith in their money. Desperate emperors respond by raising taxes, but this only fuels rebellion simmering in the provinces. Political chaos erupts. Dozens of emperors rise and fall in a single generation, a bloody game of musical thrones. The system that was once Rome's greatest strength becomes its fatal weakness. Overextension, debt, and denial feed on each other in a vicious cycle. By 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire collapses, not with a single dramatic blow, but with a long, grinding decay. How did Rome's unstoppable legions become so powerless? What happens when an empire's own systems turn against it? But Rome's algorithm didn't vanish with the fall of the city. It was copied and pasted across the centuries. Let's fast forward to the heart of London, 1914. The British Empire is at its zenith, red splashed all across the globe on every map. The pound sterling is the world's undisputed reserve currency, and London's financial district pulses with unimaginable power. Steamships and telegraphs connect continents, and the sun truly never sets on British ambition. But the algorithm is already running in the background. World War I erupts, a conflict on a scale never before seen, and the empire borrows heavily to fund the fight. Victory comes, but at a staggering cost. By 1945, after a second, even more devastating world war, Britain is victorious but exhausted. Its treasury is drained, its great cities are scarred by bombs, and its people are rationing bread and tea. The debt has piled up to astronomical levels. The colonies, once the jewels of the crown, begin to slip away. India declares independence. Nations across Africa and the Caribbean follow. The Suez Crisis of 1956 is the final humiliation. It exposes the true limits of British power. The empire is forced to retreat, not by force of arms, but by the crushing weight of its own obligations and pressure from its new creditor, the United States. Then, in 1971, the final blow lands. The pound sterling loses its status as the world's reserve currency, officially replaced by the US dollar. London's banks, once the centre of global finance, now watch as the world's wealth flows elsewhere. How did the empire where the sun never set lose it all in just a generation? Why did the pound surrender its crown to the dollar? But the algorithm didn't stop with democracies. It adapted to new regimes, new ideologies. Now shift your focus to Moscow, 1945. The Red Army has just planted the Soviet flag over the ruins of Berlin. The USSR, forged in revolution and civil war, emerges from World War II as a global superpower. Joseph Stalin stands at the head of a vast empire stretching from Central Europe to the Pacific. The communist dream, or nightmare depending on your view, seems unstoppable. From the outside, the Soviet Union looked like an industrial and military titan. They launched the first satellite, Sputnik, shocking the world. They put the first man in space. Their factories churned out tanks, planes, and missiles, and their nuclear arsenal rivaled America's. For decades, the world held its breath, caught in the grip of the Cold War, a tense standoff between two opposing systems. The algorithm of expansion was at work again. This time, it wasn't about conquering territory for gold, but for ideological influence. Puppet states were propped up. Proxy wars were fought in distant lands, and trillions were spent on a relentless arms race. But beneath the surface, the Soviet system was rotting from the inside out. The centrally planned economy was a disaster. It was rigid, inefficient, and completely out of touch with what people actually needed. While the military got the best of everything, citizens stood in long lines for basic goods, like bread and shoes. The system couldn't innovate. It couldn't adapt. It ran on fear and coercion, not genuine productivity. By the 1980s, the USSR was spending a huge portion of its economy just to keep up with the American military, an opponent with an economy that was far more dynamic and productive. The war in Afghanistan became their Vietnam, a costly, demoralizing quagmire that drained resources and morale. Then came the fall. The Berlin Wall crumbled in 1989. The satellite states of Eastern Europe broke free. And in 1991, the Soviet Union itself simply dissolved. It was a stunningly swift collapse. The mighty superpower, the one that had terrified the West for half a century, just ceased to exist. It wasn't defeated in a great war. It imploded under the weight of its own internal contradictions. The algorithm had run its course once more: overextension, unsustainable economic commitments, and a fatal inability to face reality. So, from the debased coins of Rome to the crippling war debts of Britain, to the hollow factories of the Soviet Union, we see the same pattern. An empire rises, expands, and then overextends itself. It spends more than it can afford, accumulating massive debts to maintain its military and its promises to its people. To cover the shortfall, it debases its currency or prints money, leading to inflation and economic instability. Finally, it enters a stage of denial, unable or unwilling to make the hard choices required to fix the system. The collapse, when it comes, feels sudden, but the foundations were rotting for decades. This brings us to today. The United States has been the world's dominant superpower since the end of World War II. The US dollar is the global reserve currency. Its military is the most powerful in the world, and its culture has spread to every corner of the globe. It looks from the outside unshakable. But is the algorithm running here too? Let's look at the signs. The US has military bases all over the world, involved in conflicts and alliances that stretch its resources thin. National debt has soared to levels that were once unimaginable. Trillions upon trillions of dollars. Just like Rome and Britain before it, the US spends a colossal amount on its military and on social programs. And for decades, the country has been running huge trade deficits, buying more from the world than it sells. The industrial base has hollowed out as manufacturing moved overseas, and we've seen political division and social unrest grow more and more intense. Is history repeating itself? Is the American empire, like Rome, Britain, and the Soviet Union before it, following the same well-worn path towards decline? This isn't a prediction of doom, but it is a warning. The patterns of history are clear, and ignoring them is a luxury no nation can afford. The same forces that brought down the Caesars and the Tsars are at play today. The question is, can the cycle be broken? Or is the algorithm of collapse simply an inescapable part of human history?